Assalamu alaikum, Kiora respected community members. Welcome to the live stream Voice of PANZ. और ये 2022 का सेकंड शो है और आज हमारे साथ मैं आप सबसे पहले अपने को होस्ट को ऐड करूंगा। अस्सलाम वालेकुम सनम, क्या हाल है, कैसी हैं आप?
Assalamu alaikum,
सलाम।
everyone.
आज मेरे साथ को होस्ट करेंगी शो को सनम मुख्तियार, जो कि हमारे नेल्सन रीजन की हेड हैं और रिसेंटली इन्होंने पैंस को ज्वाइन किया है। दिसंबर में आई थिंक आपने ज्वाइन किया है।
जी, दिसंबर में मैंने जॉइन किया है और काफ़ी अच्छा लगा, काफ़ी टीम मेंबर से मिल चुकी हूँ, बाकियों से
जी
मिलना
बिल्कुल।
बाकी है, न्यू ईयर आ गया था बीच में,
बिल्कुल।
तो अच्छा चल रहा है अभी तक,
जी
इंशाल्लाह
बिल्कुल।
अच्छे
मैं
प्लान्स हैं।
सनम मैं थोड़ा आपसे रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा, अपने बारे में बताएं हमारे ऑडियंस को, क्योंकि हमें कुछ लोग ऑकलैंड से देख रहे हैं, वेलिंगटन से भी देख रहे होते हैं, ऑस्ट्रेलिया और पाकिस्तान से भी हमें कुछ लोग देख रहे हैं। तो मैं चाहूंगा
जी,
कि आप थोड़ा अपने रीजन के बारे में भी बताएं, नेल्सन के बारे में भी। आप कब आई न्यूजीलैंड, आपने पैंस ज्वाइन की जैसा कि बताया 24 अभी रिसेंटली, सॉरी दिसंबर में। तो थोड़ा सा अपने
जी।
बारे में बताएं हमारे ऑडियंस को।
जी, मैं असल में हम लोग 2014 में आए थे नेल्सन डायरेक्टली। तो लाइक माय हस्बैंड ही इज़ अ सीनियर सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर, तो एज अ स्किल्ड माइग्रेंट हम लोग आए थे। तो उसके बाद फिर मैंने भी जॉब करना शुरू की। मैं इंटरप्रेटिंग न्यूजीलैंड की रीजनल कोऑर्डिनेटर भी हूँ। तो उस जॉब की वजह से मुझे काफ़ी लोगों से लाइक काउंसिल में और मल्टीकल्चरल मतलब काफ़ी डिफरेंट लोगों से यहाँ नेल्सन में मिलने का मौका मिला। नेटवर्किंग काफ़ी अच्छी हुई, काफ़ी नेटवर्क मेरा अच्छा हुआ। उसके साथ इस बैकग्राउंड के साथ जब मैं पैंस को ज्वाइन कर रही हूँ तो मुझे इसलिए भी इजी लग रहा है क्योंकि मैं ऑलरेडी यहाँ पे काफ़ी लोगों को जानती हूँ। तो अब प्रमोट करना हमारी कम्युनिटी को मेरे लिए काफ़ी इजी होगा, जो मेरे कुछ अच्छे प्लान्स भी हैं फंक्शंस के हवाले से।
जी
तो
जी।
मैं आप लोग का ज़्यादा टाइम नहीं लूँगी, मुझे पता है हमारे गेस्ट भी आने वाले हैं, तो फिर इंशाल्लाह फ्यूचर में भी अगर हो सका तो मैं आप लोगों को ज्वाइन करती रहूँगी इसी तरह।
जी, थैंक
तो
यू, थैंक यू एंड वेलकम ऑन
वेलकम।
बोर्ड। ये मेरे ख्याल से आपकी फर्स्ट पब्लिक अपीयरेंस है आफ्टर जॉइनिंग
एग्ज़ैक्टली।
पैंस। जी,
थैंक यू सो मच।
चलें
जी हाँ,
वेलकम।
बिल्कुल।
अब
थैंक यू।
मैं अपने गेस्ट को ऐड करूंगा। सो हाय, गुड इवनिंग मैट।
Assalamu alaikum.
वालेकुम
वालेकुम
अस्सलाम, हाउ आर
अस्सलाम।
यू?
I'm very well. I've had a wonderful day here in Nelson Whakatu,
ये
out swimming in rivers and jumping off bridges into rivers and eating ice cream.
या
How
वाओ!
you?
नाइस,
Mm.
दैट्स नाइस। सो आई विल रिक्वेस्ट सनम टू प्लीज इंट्रोड्यूस टू आवर ऑडियंस अबाउट मैट।
Okay. Hello, everyone, and thank you, Matt, for joining. And Matt is a counselor at Nelson City Council, and he also worked as reporter at the Nelson Mail. And Matt studied in Auckland University of Technology. um, I see that like Matt was born and raised in Wellington. He received his education there as well, and then he traveled to many countries. He has lived in Auckland and Asia, but like for the last 24 years, he has been living in Nelson. So Matt, coming back to you, like you have lived in Auckland and Asia, but for last 24 years, as you told me, like you were in Nelson, you have called Nelson your home. So, what drew you to Nelson, and what makes you stay in Nelson?
Oh, kia ora, everyone. Thank you very much for having me on the broadcast. And Sanam, it's a good question. I came here for a job. Lots of people come to Nelson for the sunshine, for the lifestyle, for the outdoor recreation. But I just came here for a job. I just came here because a guy who was the founder of a very successful small radio station made me an offer that I couldn't refuse. And he said, "Look, come to Nelson, and I'll give you this job as the local news editor for this radio company." And I
Mm.
was working for Radio New Zealand in Wellington at the time, and it was my first job as a reporter. And the Nelson offer gave me an opportunity to make some more money and get a car and see another part of the country. So I came here thinking that I would only be here for maybe 1 year, maybe 18 months. And that was
Mm.
24 years ago. And a lot of people will tell you this story in Nelson Whakatu. A lot of people come here and they think they're going to be here for a short time. They stay for a long time.
That's right. Like even like people usually they come when they are retiring. Like my boss also, she's planning to retire in Nelson. So that's really, but we also came for work. Like my husband applied and he got a job. So that's what happened in our case too. So yeah, it's straight. It's a beautiful place. Nelson is just lovely. So I'll just move on to my second question. And what are some of the things that are happening in Nelson and that you're excited about that the rest of the country might be interested in knowing? Like, yeah.
Sure. Well, one of the things, going back to why I stayed in Nelson as well, is that I'm a city person. I grew up in Wellington. I've lived in a big city in Japan. I've spent time in cities in Europe and North America. But Nelson's like this. It's compact. It's small, but it's got everything that good cities have got. It's got culture. It's got interesting businesses. It's got diversity. And that, I think, is one of the reasons that Nelson is becoming a more and more attractive place for people, because you can be a city person and you can live here but never feel like you're missing out on city stuff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you get this incredible natural environment. You get a very peaceful town to live in. And life is a lot easier here for some people. If you can get a job, if you can find somewhere to live, you can have a really, really internationally high quality of life. So I think one of the reasons that Nelson has a bright future is more and more people around Aotearoa, New Zealand, and around the world are becoming aware of that. And as more people, realise that and know now that they can work from home, you're going to see more people wanting to come and live here. So that's one thing. I think it's got a really positive future if we keep heading in the right direction. I think we're going to attract a lot of talent, which is going to be good. But also, just in terms of things that are already happening, we've had a long debate about transport in Nelson and about how we should move from A to B, and whether it should be about more people in their cars by themselves at the same time as everyone else. In other words, more roads, or should it be more about public transport and what we call active transport, which is walking, cycling, scootering, and increasingly micro mobility, so e-scooters, hoverboards, that kind of thing. And it's been a debate that's gone on for a long time, and I've been a key person in that debate because I don't think the 21st century answer to that problem is just more and more roads. I think you have to manage your roads better. Sometimes you need more roads, but you need to get better performance from your existing network. And then you also have to encourage people to do other things and other ways of getting around. So last year, Nelson City Council, after a long discussion, endorsed a plan by Waka Kotahi, the New Zealand Transport Agency, to build our network and to improve on our network, so that a lot of people will still drive, obviously, but increasingly we're going to encourage people to get on public transport. We're going to have better public transport, and we're going to have better walking and cycling, and we're going to also try to get more people living closer to where they work, study, and play. Because all the great towns and cities in the world have people living right in them, or really close to the middle of them. And our town for a long time has been a bit like a donut. It's had this empty bit in the middle, and people all go in at once, and they work and they spend the money, and then they all go back out, and it's empty. And it's a lovely little city, and it's got, like I said, it's got cafes, it's got galleries, it's got museums, it's got all this stuff. So we're going to get more people living in town. So the first thing is, we got that agreement with Waka Kotahi, and they're going to put the money into this plan, which is going to be great for Nelson. And that debate hopefully will stop, because it's taken up a lot of energy. And then part of that, we've also got an agreement with Kāinga Ora, previously known as Housing New Zealand, and we're going to sell, Nelson City Council is going to sell them some really key properties right in the middle of town and their plan is to build 175 affordable apartments right in the middle of our town, and it'll be quite a
I
big.
see.
It might even be there'll be 3 or 4 buildings, and they may be 6 stories high. And I think that's going to make, first of all, it's going to bring some people into town, which is good. Second, it's going to give some people some places they can live that they can afford because their housing is too expensive.
Yeah.
And I think the real thing is it's going to change a lot of people's mentality, and they're going to look at Nelson more as that little city, what we call the smart little city, and not a regional town. And I think that's going to increase people's confidence, and I think then we'll see more of that kind of development. So that's 2 things. One
Yeah.
more thing is we have this internationally acclaimed private science institute. It's called the Hawthorne Institute, and they do, world-class research on particularly science that relates to aquaculture and anything to do with waterways in particular. And they have outgrown their campus. I think they've got like 250 scientists working there. And so they want to move. And so what we're going to do is build with them. We're just helping, the council's helping, but there are plans for a new science and technology precinct. It'll be very close to the central city, and it will be the new home of the Hawthorne Institute, and it will also be home to some other tech and science organisations, and that I think will be really exciting. We're talking about having 1,000 what we call knowledge workers, scientists, experts, all working at that campus right close to town. So those are 3 things that I think are really exciting for Nelson.
So, do you think like schools should do something about, because I've seen people like from same area, like I live in Stoke, so I've seen people they go to like my son goes to Hampden Street, so there's another person's another family, like there are 3 4 families, let's say, that like I know that go to same school. So do you think like something can be like schools can work on something to just arrange something like that to help traffic problem, like if 2 3 people they live in the same area going to same place, maybe they can come together, or maybe they have turns, like if a family is going in the morning and to pick up the second family can go
Yeah.
and pick up, yeah. So do you think that would work, or
I think there's no reason why carpooling, what we call
yeah.
carpooling, can work. I think it's difficult when something like the council tries to organise people.
Yes, yeah, it's not
And
easy.
I think especially in regional centres, that will work
Mm,
best if it happens organically. So
mm,
you might want to start one. It's
okay,
like
yeah.
parents talk to the school and start to make it happen. I think that is the way to go. I also think we're going to see probably more zoning coming in. So
Yeah,
it'll be
yeah,
hard to send your kid to
yeah,
a
another
school.
zone. Yeah,
So that
yeah.
might happen.
Even colleges like Nayland College, I think.
Mm,
Yeah, so even
mm,
they're applying this on colleges as well.
sure.
So,
For me, I
yeah.
think one of the things that's really key is, a lot of people, and this is across the country, it's not just a
Mm,
Nelson problem. In fact, it's a developed world problem, and it's now a developing world problem as well. People, like I'm 53, and pretty much everyone when I was growing up in Wellington would either walk to school, maybe ride a skateboard or ride a bike. And
yeah.
it was very unusual for someone to be driven to school because most people would go to the local
Mm,
school and they'd walk there, and it was safe to walk there. But
yeah.
because so many cars now on our roads, people are afraid to let their kids walk to school, so they put them in the car
Yeah.
and make people think it's more dangerous. And
Mm,
and I think that's something we've got to shift. And it's not
yeah.
just for the parents and the kids; it's for everyone. And if
Yeah.
we can get in a place like Nelson, my goal for Nelson is that every child and their mum or their dad should be able to safely walk or ride a scooter, ride a
Yeah.
bike, or ride to their local school. I
Mm,
think local government, that's one thing we can do. We should be making it safe for everyone to be able
Yeah.
to do that. And that may inconvenience some motorists, but it will
Mm.
lead to fewer cars on the road,
Yeah.
which will benefit motorists. And also it will lead to healthier lifestyles for our kids. Because I think, especially in a country like New Zealand, where it's pretty safe and we've got this pretty good climate,
Mm.
I think that it's really important for people to feel connected to their communities. And I think if you walk to school and you get into that culture of getting around on public transport, you feel a little bit more connected to your community. And I think if we lose that, that'll be a bad thing.
Yeah, that's right. So I'll just Arshad, you want to ask anything? I'll leave it to you now.
Yeah, it's so many exciting thing Matt has told us, like NZTA. I am also working with NZTA.
Oh, yeah.
So Kotahi is coming and Housing New Zealand Kiangaora is coming. So
Mm.
it means within next few months or next few years, it will be one of the biggest metropolitan city. And the skyline will also be changing because you're telling us the apartments are coming. So we can expect a better skyline for the Nelson. And I was reading your portfolio. You are doing so many things on environment, climate change, and innovations. So my question is related to innovation. What's your thought and why you think that New Zealand most of the innovative potential lies inside the region like Nelson? So what's your thought on this?
So it's funny. It's like, for me,
Yeah.
I always thought I would live in Wellington. So I
Oh,
grew up in Wellington. I loved
yeah.
Wellington. I went to Kelvin Normal School. Then I went to Wellington College. Then I went to Victoria University. I just loved Wellington. All my family,
Yeah.
and most of my old friends still live in Wellington.
Mhm.
And then
Great.
I lived 3 years after university in a city in Japan called Fukuoka in Kyushu in the
Mhm.
south. And I lived in a very small apartment,
Yeah.
not much bigger than this office. And I had an amazing, intense urban experience. I loved it.
Yeah. Nice.
And one night I was in this convenience store, and it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was looking at all these magazines. I couldn't read Japanese, so I'd look at the pictures to see what people were going into. And I saw that saw these very dark green colours and dark blues, and it was very moody. And it was a fashion shoot that was done uh, down south near Akaroa near Christchurch.
Yeah.
And it really, just like, home. And I started getting the sense that if I'm going to live in New Zealand, I'd really like the opportunity to live somewhere that is more uniquely New Zealand. This is nothing against Auckland, Wellington, or Christchurch, because they're great towns.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
really are. But you have an experience in those towns that is not that dissimilar to experiences you would have in cities in many parts of the world.
Mhm.
The
Mm.
day that I had today, walking up a valley, swimming in these beautiful things, jumping off a bridge, just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
That's much harder to do in a city. And yet, it's a much more uniquely New Zealand kind of experience. So one of the reasons I think the regions have great opportunity is
Mhm.
that I think people are increasingly understanding that.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. There's a company in Nelson called Shuttle Rock,
Okay.
and yeah, and they're owned, or they're founded by a guy named Johnny Hendrickson,
Mhm.
who's lived all over the world. He lived in Japan for a long time as well.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, and he has started this company which works with um, all the social media giants, and
Okay.
they make advertisements, little commercials for social media.
Okay. Yeah.
The company has gone just massive, and their clients include people like Nestle,
Mm-hmm.
McDonald's.
Yeah.
Um, I got a list really.
Yeah. All most of the multinationals, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, Procter and Gamble, just really big companies because they've got
Yeah.
a real niche skill, and
Mm-hmm.
so they're based just down here in one of our main streets, and they're bringing these really smart tech people from all over the world, and they've got offices all over the world. And Johnny's view is, if you're going to start or have a company like his company that could
Mm-hmm.
be anywhere in the world, why would you have it in a city?
Yeah.
If you wanted to go somewhere where you could have great tech, great cafes, good people, and get to go mountain biking, windsurfing, and play golf at 4:30 any day of the week, that would be a better place, his viewers, for your company. So that we're going to get more people like Johnny Hendrickson and companies like Shuttle Rock coming here. And some of them will come from overseas. Some of them will start in New Zealand, then move here. But I think we're going to see more of that. Having said that, we could stuff it up. We have to be, as a council in a city, we have to be open-minded, we have to be open-hearted, we have to be embracing change and innovation.
Yeah.
And if we didn't, we could just turn into a big retirement village. And I don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
older people. I'm going to be an
Yeah.
older person soon. But we have to be about more than just retirement villages.
Yeah, no, as I said, the skyline is changing. Many things are coming. So hopefully, we are pretty sure things will change sooner or like within next few years. There will be a drastic change. And second, I will request our online viewers who are watching us. They can write to us, or they can simply post their comments on Facebook, or write their questions and PANZNZ@gmail. We are talking to Mr. Matt Lawery, the counselor at Nelson City Council. So over to you, Sanam, for the next questions.
All right. Now, okay, Matt. So, what are your thoughts on environment and climate change?
Well, I think we all have to play our part. And one of the things you hear in New Zealand is people say, we're a really small country, it's not going to make any difference. You have to look at the big countries, the big industrial countries, they're the ones who have to change. If we change, it won't make any difference, so what's the point? And I don't believe that argument. I think it's very lazy thinking, to be honest. If you take all the small countries like New Zealand and Norway and Denmark and these smaller states, if you take them and you put all their emissions together, you get something like a third of the emissions in the world. You get a lot of emissions. So everyone has to play their part, including us small countries. And I also think for New Zealand, we in the 80s got into a big debate internationally about nuclear weapons. And we said, we do not want nuclear weapons in New Zealand, and we don't want nuclear power as well. And that was a real big moment in New Zealand's history. And I think, given that history, the history that most of us are proud of, I think we need to do our part, be part of the solution and not the problem. And I think we're getting there, but there's a bit of a disconnect between what people say they want and what they're doing. And unfortunately, you don't get change without sometimes people having to make a little bit of an adjustment. It doesn't have to be a huge sacrifice, but I think we need to encourage people more to think about what they can do, and governments need to do what they can do. But yeah, we can't get out of it. We've got to do our bit.
Yeah. Over to you, Arshad.
Yeah, so just a very, like, you have a depth knowledge of the region and you spent 24 years in this region. So I just a tourism based question. So
Yep.
if anyone interested to come and want to see Nelson, then what
Yep.
like tourist attractions and what these sort of things you recommend people that it is a must watch during the stay to Nelson?
Okay. So it's a great question. And the thing about Nelson that's great is if you're someone who's really into, art, you could spend like a month just visiting galleries and artists,
Yeah.
going to shows and everything else. If you're someone who's into water sports, you could go whitewater rafting, windsurfing, kayaking, you could do all that. If you're into mountain biking, it's amazing. But if I was going to give you a sort of random collection of lots of things for everyone,
Yeah.
let's say we have the Saturday market that's really good. It's been going for over 30 years. I think it's probably the best market in the country. What do you think, Sanam? I think the
Yeah, it's really nice one. Yeah, really nice. They've got some beautiful stuff, like beautiful stalls, and yeah, it's a great market.
They do a really good job of
Yeah.
curating
Mm-hmm.
the stalls. So you've got food, you've got art, and you've got lots,
Yeah.
just everything. And it's a real it's a place where everyone comes every week to get together and things. It's really nice. So Saturday market, you have to go to that.
Yeah.
Then I'd go. One thing I'd do is, so people often don't realise that Nelson is the city in the district Nelson,
Yeah.
and then we're a city, little city, but then right next door we've got Tasman, but we're together, we're the Nelson region, Nelson and Tasman. So the Abel Tasman National Park is in Tasman, but it's part of the Nelson region, and it's just over there. It's really close. So I would go to Maraho, and
Mm-hmm.
I'd go to
Okay.
the. If you don't have time to do a overnight trek or hike, I would just go to Maraho, and I would go into the Abel Tasman, and I would walk to Apple Tree Bay, which is about probably an hour and a quarter, something like that. But it's just beautiful. It's an absolute gorgeous place, and it'll give you a taste of what the rest of the Abel Tasman and its
Mm-hmm.
beaches
Yeah.
are like. Do that. There's a place that's also in Tasman that's on the way home called Mapua, which is
Yeah.
got lots of
Beautiful.
interesting things going on. It's lovely, but the
Yeah.
thing you have to do in Mapua is
Yeah.
jump off the wharf. There's a wharf, and at low tide, it's quite high. At high tide, not so high, but it's just a fantastic thing with the kids. Jump
The
into the
ice
sea,
cream.
then go and have an ice cream.
Yeah.
I think you want to go to the Suter Gallery, which is, I think, the second oldest public art gallery in New Zealand.
Oh,
It's
nice.
Wow.
it's a very, very good gallery, and it's got a really good cafe. I think just eating out in general in Nelson, Hardy Street, top of Trafalgar Street, parts of Bridge Street, there's lots of really good restaurants, cafes, bars. I go for a walk on Tahunanui Beach, which is our local beach. Because we were
Okay.
down there last night after dinner. You forget living here how lovely it is.
Okay.
In
It
fact,
Nice.
is.
Nice.
I go there at sunset. You get a great
Ah.
sunset at Tahunanui Beach. I visit the Brook Waimarama Sanctuary, which is
Mm-hmm.
um, it's a sanctuary for birds, and we've got a fence that goes around it, 14 kilometres long, and we protect everything that's in there. We've got rid of all the rats and the stoats and the mice and the
Mm-hmm.
pigs,
Yeah.
and it's like a nursery for native birds, and it's a
Oh,
pretty
nice.
special place. There's one in Wellington called Zealandia, which is great too. Our one is a lot newer, but it's pretty special. I'd go out to the lighthouse.
Okay.
The lighthouse on the Boulder Bank, which is like a reef just off Nelson,
Okay.
is
Yeah.
the oldest lighthouse in New Zealand,
In New Zealand. Oh, nice.
and
Yeah.
it was built in the town of Bath in England,
Okay.
and they put it on a ship and they brought it all the way to Nelson, and they stood
Oh,
it up and they bolted it together, and it's
okay.
been there ever since. It's very picturesque, it's very romantic, and you can get a key and you can go up inside it, and it's just
Oh,
magic.
that
Two
that
more
also
things.
has a very nice history. Yeah.
Oh, it's lovely. And I'll
Yeah.
give you two more things because then I've given you 10.
Mm-hmm.
We have you heard of Pix peanut butter?
No,
That's near my house.
no.
It's
Yeah.
so it's the most famous. Well,
Yeah.
it's probably New Zealand's most. Well, it's certainly Nelson's most famous breakfast bread. It's peanut
Okay.
butter, but it's
Okay.
really, really, really good. And
It's
it's the
really
number
good.
one peanut butter in New Zealand, and I think Australia as well. It's
Oh,
going off.
nice.
And the guy who started it is a friend of mine. He's very entertaining, and they've got this fantastic factory. And
Yeah, beautiful one. Yeah.
Ah,
it's
yep.
really interesting, and you get a really good story, and it's quite inspiring about the sort of businesses you can start in Nelson. And then finally, our river is called the Mai Tai. It's also called the Mahi Tahi. The
Mai
Mai
Tai.
Tai is this just lovely river that runs through the city of Nelson, and I would go for a really good walk up to Mai Tai and probably have a swim in there as well if it's warm. I think if you do all of those things,
Yeah.
you're pretty
So
good.
you showed me so many attraction. I think I can book next vacation plan to
Right.
Nelson. And the list I think your list will be never ending, because you have
I've got
shortlisted up to 10.
I've got one more thing. if
Yeah.
if you're fit and if you're okay on a mountain bike,
Yeah.
which is my sport, and it's just
Yep.
the greatest sport in Nelson. There's a trek called the Copper Mine, and it goes from, it's about, you're in town. It takes about 12 minutes to ride to the start of it from town,
Okay.
and it's about a 4-hour journey, and it takes you right from Nelson, like down at sea level, up into the mountains. You're in
Yeah.
the alpine environment. You've got this
Mhm.
incredible landscape, which is where they used to get copper out of the earth. It's just amazing. And then you come down this valley, down into the Mai Tai Valley, and then you ride down the river back to Nelson. It takes about 4 hours, but
Oh.
it's amazing.
Yes. So yeah, thank you. It's like you have given us so many attractive place. So I hope my audience will also book some for the next vacation. So I will
Oh,
just go for one of the online question. This
mm,
question, it's not a question basically, it's a suggestion.
mm,
So it is by Mrs. Hamid Orisa Iman. She is our woman wing lead also. And
mm,
she is saying that salam host and
mm,
good evening Matt, and thank you for the coming show about the Kai Ora project. Can you
mm,
consider building playgrounds too near to the apartment on compounds, encouraging outdoor activities for children growing and living in these restricted space homes?
yeah.
If not, they are stuck in devices and TV. It's like she's giving a suggestion if you can add, and plus, like if you don't give a proper time for them or area to play, they will be definitely go towards online activity and the gadgets and all these things.
Mm. I think it's a fantastic point. Thank you for that point and that question. That is something we're thinking about,
Yeah.
and across the country, councils are thinking about how we do this. And Nelson is blessed with a lot of parks, which many of which don't get used that much. So we are very fortunate in that we have capacity for
Yeah.
creating playgrounds in these parks that we already have. But it's a really important issue, and I think that in the rush to um, try to tackle the housing crisis, the problem of the
Yeah.
housing crisis, we've got to be really careful that we don't intensify, we don't put apartment buildings in areas that don't have those kinds of facilities, that don't have places for families to get out into somewhere green, in places that are far from public transport modes. Because if we don't, then we get that problem. We get people, living in New Zealand, living in a place like Nelson, but actually 4 stories up, staring at a screen, nothing to do outside, and if they want to go anywhere, they get into a car. And like I said, nothing wrong with cars, but if we're all in them all the time at the same time, it doesn't, cities don't work very well. So yeah, thank you. That's a very, very good point. But we are thinking about it all the time.
Yeah, nice. So I will just quickly jump to the next question that is
Mm,
raised by our senior community member. And this is the question also which I was expecting to ask you in the last, that how do you see the role of ethnic group promoting the value of trust in New Zealand? And if we go specifically, then what's your thoughts about the PAN's role in Nelson? And as you know, Sanam is already there. She is representing Pakistan Association of New Zealand. So, what's your thought about ethnic community and the role of ethnic community
oh,
members there?
yeah, great question. When I first came to Nelson, I was 24 years ago.
Yeah,
As someone who had lived and grew up in central Wellington and had spent a lot of time overseas, I was pretty surprised at how Nelson was not diverse. And it was diverse in that
yeah,
there were different kinds of Pākehā, there were different kinds of European people. There were Swiss and
okay,
Americans and
yeah,
Germans and English people, but they all looked the same. And um, and it didn't really feel very diverse. Now that has changed significantly in the last 20 years. And where we live, which is the Victory community, it is a truly diverse community, of people from all sorts of countries and places and backgrounds living together really well. And we have this thing in Nelson, Race Unity Day, And when I was first involved with it 20 years ago, something like that, it was a small gathering, and everyone was a bit nervous, and it didn't get a lot of publicity, but it has grown and grown and grown, and now it is one of the highlights on Nelsonian's events calendar.
Yeah.
And thousands of people go, and every year new groups from different cultures, and we've got a lot of former refugees in Nelson. Nelson's for a long time, Nelson was one of only 2 towns in the South Island, cities in the South Island, that were receiving refugees, and so as the event has grown, the confidence of these different ethnic groups has grown, and they've started to want to take part in the Race Unity Day. They've been looking at it for years. Now they're getting involved, and so I think the role of ethnic groups in promoting trust is getting involved, engaging, taking those opportunities like Race Unity Day to connect with everyone, because the more we connect, the more we will trust each other, and the better our societies will work.
Do you think, Matt, like as the ethnic communities, like we're getting more people every year, like from different ethnic backgrounds. So, do you think the challenges like are going up as well for them to be accepted? Because you said like Nelson has not been diverse for in past. Like, do you see it as a challenge? And what should, as like I just joined as Nelson head, like I look after Pakistani people here. Do you like suggest anything other than that? Like, do you see any potential challenges that I should like uh, work
Yeah,
on, or maybe
I think that it's always tough. Like when I lived in Japan, because I looked so different from everyone, I found that sometimes people treated me differently, and it wasn't because they were necessarily being prejudiced against me. Because generally, I got an incredible reception. People were very welcoming. They wanted me to work in English schools and things, and I had a good job, and it was pretty easy. But I think that sometimes, what's that term, unconscious bias? Do you know the expression unconscious bias? I think unconscious bias, where people just, they stick with what they know, and they don't realize they're not giving someone a chance, because they don't think about it, because it's unconscious. They just sort of stick with what they know. And I think that's something we have to keep talking about and making ourselves aware about. And I'll give you one example. Like last year, I was instrumental in getting the Maori sovereignty flag, what's considered the Maori sovereignty flag, Tino Rangatiratanga, this flag flying at council, because we say that we want to be in the Crown, and tangata whenua have a partnership through the Treaty of Waitangi, and we need to honour it. And if you came to Nelson City Council, you didn't see much that reflected that history and that agreement. So I thought it was a good idea for that flag to be there. And you know what? People have been fine with it. No one's been upset. People have gone, yep, that's a New Zealand flag. That's another New Zealand flag. And so I think things are shifting. And I think the horror of March 15 was just, it was one of the worst things that has ever happened to this country.
Yes.
And we can never forget it. But I do believe it brought us together. I think we are more united today than we were before that horrible, terrible day. And which is a really strange thing in many ways. But I think there will always be challenges, but I think those challenges will become less. I think they already are. I hope they already are. What do you think? Do you think they're becoming less?
Yeah, somewhat, yeah. But I think we need to, as you said, like get engaged in activities, so that people, the locals, know us more. They know about our culture. So that's what I'm planning for our Pakistan Day in March. So I'll invite you to that as well. So I'm trying to, educate people about Pakistani culture as well, because we are not many Pakistanis in Nelson. So I'll try to run a documentary to introduce like um, some very interesting facts about Pakistan so that people know about it. So I'll try to do my part. Let's see what happens.
How
Yeah.
many, Sam? How many Pakistani people are there in Nelson?
Not many really. We were around 15 or 20. Then some people just moved to other cities, and but we're expecting some more families.
Mhm.
So I'll see how it goes. I think till March I'll have a couple of families coming in anyway. So I'll see what I can do because we're not many here, but we'll definitely grow.
Mhm.
And I'll try to have events in which we can promote our culture, our people, so that people know us. And when you like, it's kind of if they'll know us more, obviously it has the awareness has to be created, and
Mhm.
that way I think we can possibly make more friends. Like we definitely attract many people to just come and join us and know more about our community. So I'm working on it, and I'll have a few events. So I'm hopeful. Yeah.
Yes, so Matt, I got another suggestion like from our woman wing lead, Mrs. Hamid. So to encourage engagement and participation with the ethnic communities, Matt, it's important that ethnic organizations are contacted directly to events or to initiate educational events to help break the unconsciousness bias you mentioned. She's just supporting your statement. She's just
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah.
So
Mm,
yes, and as Sanam mentioned about some events, so I will also request you if you are in Auckland on 20th of February, we are holding our national awards. Pakistan Association is holding second national awards to encourage people who participated in the New Zealand culture, to encourage people who are the like renowned people who are Pakistani people who are participating in the society. So we are just appreciating them through the awards process. There are different 6 to 7 awards, and it's holding on 20th of February. I will initiate an invite for you specifically also, and the as you know that we got a very limited time, around 40 to 45 minutes for all the discussions. So the last question what I want to say, that what message do you want to give to Pakistani community using this our Pakistan Association New Zealand platform, or what suggestion you think that should be given to the communities or ethnic community?
Well, my message would be one of aroha, love and peace to
Yeah,
you all. My message would also be to say thank you
yeah,
for making Aotearoa New Zealand a more interesting country and a better country, because I truly believe we're stronger through diversity. And the
yes,
other message I'd have is to say that, I'd really encourage you to reach out to local media and local councils.
yeah,
It would be great, Sanama, if you could come and have a chat to us. We always want to hear from groups in our community, and
yeah.
councils have a thing called public forum where groups can come along and talk about anything that's on their mind. And I think it would be fantastic if groups like yours, more groups like yours came to actually got in contact with councils and said, we want to come to public forum. We just want to tell you about our organisation and what we're doing, because you'll be very
Mm,
well. And I think just that is a help, really helps people know who's in their community. Yeah, and also local media. They're always looking for good stories about things that are new or fresh or diverse. And I think you'll find quite often you'll get a really warm reception from particularly local community media.
that's right.
Uh,
Yeah.
yes, so I will just add one more thing. Like Pakistan Association New Zealand has a presence in Auckland, Hamilton, Dunedin, Nelson, Christchurch, Wellington, and like we are a community of more than around 10,000 people. So it's always pleasure to have people like you on board, watch, listen to your advices, and discuss with you with the concerns of the community. So on behalf of whole team of Pakistan Association New Zealand, especially Nelson region, and especially the executive council and regions, I would like to say thank you very much, Matt, for joining us and giving us time on, especially on Sunday when people are resting and they
Yeah.
are, yeah.
Okay.
So that's awesome, and that like we really enjoyed talking to you, and we will get some more sessions in future. And again, I am very thankful to you for joining us.
Well,
Thank you
thank
from
you
me as
very
well,
much.
Matt. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for
Well,
Thank you, Matt.
joining.
Yeah.
thank you very much for asking me. I really enjoyed it.
Yes.
I like talking about Nelson, and
Yeah.
I've
That
enjoyed
was
talking
lovely
to
to
you.
have you.
Yeah.
Thank you to everyone who's watching.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much,
Thank
Matt.
you, Matt. Yeah. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
जी, मैं आखिर में बात करना चाहूँगा कि जो रिसेंटली हमारे टोंगा रीजन में जो
Yeah.
वोल्केनिक इरप्शन हुई है, उसके हवाले से मैं बात करना चाहूँगा कि हम सब लोगों को दुआ करनी चाहिए टोंगा वालों के लिए, और जो आस-पास के एरियाज़ हैं जहाँ पे अभी सिचुएशन क्रिटिकल है, ब्रॉडकास्ट नहीं हो रही, कनेक्शन इश्यूज़ चल रहे थे। तो वी प्रे फॉर देम एंड पाकिस्तानी कम्युनिटी स्टैंड विद देम, एंड व्हाटएवर वी कैन सपोर्ट बाय प्रेइंग, बाय हेल्पिंग, वी आर देयर hopefully. And in the last, Sanam, I will thank you. I want to say thank you very much for joining us also. And आखिर में अपने
Thank you for
तमाम
having me and thank you आपने मुझे भी ये opportunity दी कि मैं सबसे बात कर सकूं. Thank you for that.
no, it's again, I would like to say it's again the vision of our president, Mr. Naveed Hamid, because वो हर एक चीज को analyze करते हैं, and every chance and everything which we can explore, we are doing that. अगेन बहुत अच्छा लगा आपसे बात करके, और लास्ट में मैं अपने तमाम कम्युनिटी मेंबर से रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि स्टे ट्यून्ड विद अस एंड फॉर द नेक्स्ट शो व्हिच इज हैपनिंग ऑन 23rd, एंड सी यू सून. आखिर में पाकिस्तान जिंदाबाद. अल्लाह हाफिज.
Allah Hafiz.